Hello, nerds, and welcome to the Engadget podcast. I'm Terrence O'Brien, editor in desperate need of a haircut. To my right, Cherlynn Lowe, chief contrarian editor.
You're a nerd.
I am a nerd. That's
Hot kettle.
Yeah, that's how I got this job.
Oh, God.
And to my left, senior editor in charge of Crankiness, yes, sure. Crankiness, Devindra Hardawar.
Hello, hello. I also like to point out, Cherlynn, you're also a nerd, so you can't escape.
Not.
Yeah.
I got this job by charm. Not really.
No. I mean, you are. I mean, not that you're not charming, but you do seem to have it out for me.
I do.
You have made it your goal here to really just like.
I really don't like your beard, Terrence.
This is gonna be a fun episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going after the beard?
I'm going after everything. But also, I'm very nervous for today. Also, I'm not here.
You're not here?
I'm not physically here, no.
No. Physically?
Mentally. Said that twice today.
Yeah, that's just proving my point.
Yep, I'm dead, guys. I'm dead.
How are you, Devindra?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Also very tired.
Yeah. Another late night of working, I assume?
Yeah.
It's been kind of a long week for everybody. We're again a little bit short-staffed. We got a bunch of people on vacation. It's also IFA.
Yep.
So we've got a whole bunch of people over in Europe and doing the coverage thing live.
But us back here got to work too.
Yes, it's not any easier for us back here, unfortunately. On the home front, it's actually often sometimes even a little bit harder than actually being there on the ground covering an event.
Yep.
It's a little bit of inside knowledge for you people out there. The worst thing you can do, basically, is be covering the home front during an event. The people who stay home during CES aren't really getting a break.
That's the worst thing, yeah.
So yeah, should we kind of just get right to it?
Sure.
It is time for Flame Wars, as we start every week. This is our debate segment. Cherlynn, Devindra, you guys are going to talk about the biggest stories of the week. You will have 20 seconds to make your opening arguments. I'll allow you a brief rebuttal, at which point I will declare a winner based on the strength of your argument. Pretty straightforward stuff. So let's start with a little bit of IFA news.
Yeah.
Because why not? Lenovo announced the Yoga Book, which is a tablet notebook hybrid thing.
Really a notebook.
Yeah. So what makes this device unique is it doesn't have a physical keyboard. Instead, it has a touchpad that displays keys as an outline, but also doubles as a digitizer. Cherlynn, you got to try this out. You were actually pretty impressed by this.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about this and why you think this was actually like a really interesting and exciting move for Lenovo to make.
In 20 seconds?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so first of all, I love pen and paper. So they have a feature where you can write on real paper with a pen on top of the tablet. And it gets saved in the device. This is great. And then the software can recognize the text and save it so you can search your notes later. It's really cool. And consider the audience. It's very innovative for a very specific group of people. Screw you, Terrence!
Thanks. That's good. That sounds.
You asked a lot of me in 20 seconds.
You'll have more time. Don't worry. I just want to get you, got to build up that quickness, learn efficiency.
Biased. You like Devindra more.
It's not about liking Devindra. I just like to buzz.
Swear. Okay.
Actually,
He likes hitting the button.
Yeah, that's really what it is. I'm easily amused, and I like things that make noise. So Devindra, you're less of a fan. You think Lenovo went a little bit too far here?
Yeah, it's a cool idea, but we've seen touch-capable keyboards like this before in the Surface, and Microsoft pretty much gave up on them because it sucked. So trying to do that again on this device, I'm not quite sure who it's for or what it's really meant to do.
Wow. He is always way under, and he ruins my fun.
No, I think you just don't buzz him. Like, you just don't look at the timer when you're talking.
I'm staring right at it. He has 5 seconds left.
God. I said the same amount of stuff he did.
Time me.
I said,
listeners,
at the same speed. You just don't like me. That's it.
We love you. That is my favorite reaction to anything ever.
Oh, God. No,
it's like physical revulsion. Wow.
Guys.
You okay?
I can't. No. I'm sorry I can't say the same to you, Terrence.
That's okay.
I think Cherlynn's just trying to get away from defending this.
No, that's not true. Listen, okay, can I?
Yeah, no, please go ahead. That's.
So first of all, I agree with you. The keyboard, the lack of a physical keyboard, is going to be like a sucky. Bleh, I almost swore. It's going to be a really sucky thing for people who want to be productive on the go. But like I said, consider the audience. This is built for a very niche, or not so niche actually. It's a sizable audience that likes pen and paper, that wants to write. And you know, there's artists and designers out there that are going to benefit a lot from having this on the go. They can sketch onto their
but you have to use like a
wherever they are.
Lenovo specific pen and stuff, right? Like,
right.
There are a lot of limitations in terms of how that works. So
there's not a lot of limitations. I mean, it's a good stylus with those like 2048 like levels of pressure.
Is it a better stylus than Lenovo has had before? Because I've tested a couple of those, and they're really skinny, really hard to hold.
So
and
this
that's
one's
a problem.
This one's more like a pen. It's got a pen cap and everything, and then with that pen cap, you can like finagle the nib so that you can replace it with a real ink cartridge, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I win, right?
Well, I have a question for you, Devindra.
Yes.
So, because I mean, actually, I think you make a fairly compelling argument. I'm one of these people who, you know, likes to take notes because I constantly forget everything.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Not surprising.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. It's terrible. My mother used to tell me that like I would forget my head if it wasn't attached to my body, that sort of thing. So without the ability to like really quickly jot down notes, I would be an insanely unproductive person. But as I've moved away from pen and paper, I've found one of the big obstacles to really embracing that is the speed at which I'm able to take notes on a digital device. And this seems like it actually offers a way to kind of bridge that gap and a much quicker access to that sort of thing. Is that not a compelling?
Maybe. I mean, most people, though, you say that, I'm pretty sure you'll probably be able to type faster than you can actually jot down notes with pen and paper. You may just do it in a more organic way with pen and paper, but like personally, like I'm somebody who's been typing for a while, jotting down notes on a keyboard is really fast. Yeah.
So what I was going to ask, though, is I do type much faster than I write.
Yep.
Also, I can read what I type, and my handwriting is atrocious. So anything that I write with pen and paper is basically useless to me anyway. But what I did find super interesting is you don't even have to like fire up the tablet. You don't have to fire up an app. You just pull the pen out and start scribbling, and without turning the screen on, it automatically saves the note that you've written down.
It is a cool idea. It reminds me of the Microsoft Courier, that failed project from a couple years ago. But also, this is a full size. This is a big tablet. This isn't like a nice little, 7-incher, right? So
It's 10 inches.
Yeah.
It's still pretty small.
I feel like something like this, a little more portfolio size, a little like smaller maybe, would be really cool.
So to make your argument for you, the one thing I would worry about is what happens when it's out of juice and you need a piece of paper there. I mean, I'm helping Devindra here, so points to me, right? But it has a really large battery, 8,500 milliamp hours. It's supposed to last up to 15 hours of general use. Idle, it can last for days. I think it's innovative, and I think my point here is also that in a space that's kind of dead, Lenovo's really innovating.
How much is it, though?
500 for the Android version and 550 for the Windows version. It comes in 2 versions, too. It's pretty cool. I win.
One last question for you, and then we can decide who
needy.
wins. I know. Just tell me a little bit about the typing experience on it, because I do kind of agree with Devindra that typing on this flat screen seems like it's going to be a terrible experience. I haven't tried it myself.
I did. I tried it, and it was kind of awful. It was painful. As I noted in my story, which is very well written, by the way.
It is an excellent piece, by the way. You should go read it. You should go watch the video. It's very good. And
so it's got basically no travel. There's haptic feedback, and they're very generously sized, but it's really very odd. Lenovo said that you can get used to it in about 2 hours and be banging out emails in no time.
Sure.
I think that's 2 hours of like constant use, which no, I don't have the time.
That was the same thing Microsoft said about their touch keyboard.
And it still sucked, right? Yeah. So I don't believe Lenovo when they say that. I think that this is really going for the person that can do without a keyboard altogether, or doesn't mind like typing on screen, because it's a similar experience to typing on screen, except with better haptic feedback.
Okay. I'm going to unfortunately award this one to Devindra, Cherlynn. I'm sorry. I think that this is.
Oh my God! Can I walk off?
You can if you want. Nobody is keeping you to the chair. You are not shackled to that stool. Here's what I'm going to say is I think this is a very interesting, innovative device. I think the idea of being able to quickly jot down notes without having to fire up an app or turn on a tablet or anything is really interesting. But at the end of the day, like you said, the typing experience is terrible. And, you know, at that point, what is the purpose of this extra digitizer thing anyway, if, you know, you could essentially just draw on a screen with a stylus
see the
anyway.
look of hate Cherlynn is giving.
Yeah, she is giving me the evil eye.
That's great.
You just like Devindra.
This does seem like
I mean,
Like, let's be real. I made a really compelling argument.
You did.
And then you also
and you're
killed your own
supposed to.
argument.
You're not. I helped you because I wanted to
Yeah,
show
you
I was
helped mine.
smarter than you.
and I kind of want to be honest here. I'm a little bit of like a Lenovo fanboy.
Yep.
I love.
Supposed to judge, however, based on the power of the argument.
Yes. And
Not
so
your
I was
personal belief.
I was already biased in your favor, and you did not win me over.
Oh,
Your
snap.
personal belief here is that the key. Whatever.
Anyway,
We need to move on, though.
Yes.
this is
Unfortunately,
more thought anybody will ever put into this device.
Exactly.
it really is. This is.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. Nobody's buying
Yeah,
it.
sorry, guys.
Let's move on to Intel. They announced their 7th generation CPUs this week, and you know, I think CPUs are a hard thing to get excited about. It's never the sort of news that gets everybody all jazzed up and like partying in the streets. Nobody's lining up to buy
Says
a new.
you, Terrence.
Nobody's lining up to buy the new Core i7s, unfortunately. Like, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, since you're already starting to fall asleep, why don't we start with you, Cherlynn, and tell me why you think Intel really failed to capitalize and deliver here with its latest generation of CPUs.
So this is, like you said, the 7th generation already, and Intel hasn't done anything that's really drastically new other than better performance, better battery life, but that happens every year. By this point, I'm so bored. I really wanted something different, like a new infrastructure or just a new way of, you know, delivering speed. Eat that!
You came in 3 seconds under. Nice.
See?
Nice.
Uh,
You can do this.
I can't. It's just boring.
Devindra, you you are one of our resident chip nerds, though.
I somehow
One-off?
became this. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess tell me a little bit about why people should be more excited. Why Cherlynn should be more excited about this chip.
Mainly around 4K video. This chip has hardware decoding and encoding built in, so it basically won't use very much CPU usage to play 4K videos and encode them. That's a huge thing, because right now, even with a fast computer, 4K will kill your CPU usage.
And again, 5 seconds. I'm pretty sure he like practices this in the mirror the night
Yeah.
before.
Many years of weird radio
does.
podcasting things, yeah.
So, Cherlynn, do you not think there's value or anything worth getting excited about now that these chips can decode 4K natively? I mean, that means that low-end laptops, tablets, and I assume that Intel will eventually push these chips and this architecture to other things because you can find
it's
Intel
coming
chips.
on laptops in September and desktops, I think, like January.
And Intel also makes chips for TVs as well, too,
Sure.
right? And so this could eventually find its way into that or set-top boxes.
Maybe. I think TVs more are using the mobile chips now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So name me a 4K display laptop that's on the lower end.
Yeah, they don't exist yet, Cherlynn, because
So
the
what's
chips
the-
aren't there. Now we have them, and now you'll...
Okay,
I honestly
so-
agree that it'll be useless, but yeah.
Right now it's useless. And I
Yeah.
mean, again, the timeliness of it is a big factor. But also, lower end laptops wanting to do 4K editing and encoding and decoding kind of. To me, it feels like the wrong audience. To me, it feels like people who are going for the Chromebooks and the lower end streams and whatnot aren't going to be using
Maybe.
it for
I mean,
4K
there
editing.
there are a wide variety of lower end chips too, but just the idea that these can handle videos of that size, because it's not just 4K. It'll also have hardware decoding for like 1080p and other video sizes too. Basically, this means you can sit there with your laptop and watch a video, and your laptop won't die in like 4 or 5 hours. It may go for like 8 or 9 or 10 hours. So I think that's the ultimate good thing here.
But then
Yeah.
by the time that happens, Intel will be on its 8th generation. So what's the point?
I mean, that's 2 or 3 years away at this point. So what do you mean by the time that happens? Like
By the time like the lower end computers catch up with all the displays, with the right components.
you don't need the 4K display. It may also be more for people who want like output. Like you have your laptop at home and you want to spit it out to a higher res monitor or something, or even your TV. You have the option to do that now, and your computer won't like chug.
I mean, that's if your computer supports 4K output too, right?
Yeah, that would all be coming. You need new chips for that, Cherlynn.
I'm just, first of all, ugh, snooze, I don't care. But second of all, you're just gonna win because like Terrence likes you. So what's the point? I don't even want to do this anymore.
I do want to interject here real quick because I think Cherlynn makes a really important point, which is
wow.
Intel is putting 4K decoding in these chips, and you're arguing that that means it'll make it available in these low-end devices. But she rightly points out that there are no laptops with 4K displays at the lower end, and they're not coming anytime soon. And so it kind of,
I think Cherlynn is focusing on the lower end because that is the weaker segment for this chip. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does. Well, here's the thing to me is it kind of does reek of Intel kind of jamming in a feature that doesn't necessarily need to be there, rather than really innovating and delivering. And me and Cherlynn were talking about this a little bit earlier. The core architecture is now a decade old.
They change it every couple of years. So they're on this new.
They make tweaks to it, but at its basic level, it's been the same for a decade, and that's the longest that any real basic architecture has existed.
I
for
think
Intel
the name. So the name has been the same, but Intel has had this tick-tock cycle in terms of how they're refreshing the chip. So this chip is an improvement over the Skylake design from last year. But that was a pretty big change over the other one. Like every generation brings thermal improvements, so they run a lot less hot, and they can get up to higher megahertz. They can reach higher speeds. So
they can reach higher speeds. I guess my point is that they are these very small incremental things. The megahertz, sure, they can reach slightly higher speeds, but the megahertz race is over. That ended basically with the death of the Pentium 4.
This is true. Now it's about thermal, basically the thermal positioning, and they've also a 4K laptop that's super thin, insanely thin. Like their newer chips will be in maybe even some super thin tablets. A device like that, being able to power and decode 4K on its own, forget low-end computers. Think about an ultra-thin laptop or an ultra-thin tablet. That's insane. That is pretty insane.
Sorry. I just saw.
Cherlynn is laughing at me.
No, I'm not laughing. I was not listening to you guys because this is sorry.
Cherlynn's not listening to me.
Terrence can argue for me on this. I'm not even gonna get excited because he said I made a good point because he's just gonna give it to Devindra anyway.
I'm actually gonna give this to you, Cherlynn.
Okay.
Because I mean, I see what you're saying.
Your personal biases, though.
No, it has nothing to do with personal biases. It has everything to do with, I think you make the better point, and I think they're just not worth getting excited about. They continue to be incremental improvements, and I think that's sort of the thing is people are getting a little bit restless at this point, and the improvements that people really want to come out of these things are not what they're getting. Like 4K decoding is nice.
Yeah, but what are you looking for?
But I think people would be more interested in the new Intel chip doubles my battery life.
Well, it's not doubling it, but it does improve your battery life. And the 4K performance, if you want to double your battery life, you have a laptop right now that maybe can run 4K in 4 hours. You double your battery life by bringing that to hardware decoding.
I suppose that's true.
He already gave me the point, so shut up, Devindra.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying, the improvements there are so minor. My laptop that I own now doesn't last significantly longer than the laptop that I had 10 years ago on the same size battery, unfortunately. And I think that's kind of where my issue lies. And I would like to see something more.
I will say, though, if listeners are planning to get a new computer anytime soon,
hold out.
Wait.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because you do want the new chips.
No, I mean, they're worth waiting for if you're in the market for a new computer. Don't buy an old chip if you don't have to. But also, don't line up. All right, is that you want to move on?
Yeah.
All right,
that's me going. That's me going, Terrence. Please.
Yes.
Please.
So let's move on to the most exciting.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Yes. We have to do this.
We do have to do this, and I can't wait.
Can I just explain for a second why I laughed just now? Because I looked in our script document and I realized Terrence has spelled winner whiner.
Oh.
And I just burst out laughing.
And then I fixed my typo.
And then you fixed it, so it's still funny. Anyway. Go ahead.
So we're going to talk about Dead or Alive, and their
but why
controversial VR mode. So for those who don't know, although I'm sure most of you do, Dead or Alive is a fighting game in theory.
But this is Dead or Alive Extreme.
Yes,
So
which is their beach
mini
volleyball.
Beach volleyball, yes.
Yeah. So basically, Dead or Alive is theoretically a fighting game that exists primarily as an excuse to show scantily clad women.
It used to be a good fighting game.
It brags about its
had a lot of
breast physics.
Yes,
Like, this is a
yes.
thing that they actually do in their press materials. And then they have these side games like beach volleyball, and they just released, or they teased, I guess, not released, a VR mode that I'm struggling to describe without coming off as overly crass.
VR fondling.
Yeah, I mean, basically you get to poke, prod, and fondle a virtual woman while she protests that you are doing this. She covers herself and yells no. And in the video demo of this, the man trying it out continues to poke her against her protestation.
He's really enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we covered this with, I'm going to argue, the most excellent headline possible.
Yes.
Which is Dead or Alive VR is basically sexual assault the game. And for those of you who don't like that, I don't care. It's honest. Deal with it. You can complain and take to YouTube and get all riled up about it if you want. Yeah, I watched
Who
your
would do
video.
that? Who would do that, Terrence?
I won't call people out by name, but there's some angry children out there, basically.
Hordes of
There are
angry.
people with a lot of time on their hands who can't wait to fondle virtual women.
Yeah,
So.
they're really excited about this.
Really? They said that?
I don't know if that's because they've never fondled a real woman, or if
So glad you get to fondle real women,
or
Terrence.
if because their only experience with fondling real women was, you know, I'll just leave it.
No,
That's,
parents. No.
I'll just leave it there.
Dirty already.
I think legal's walking in the door.
Yeah, they're like right.
Before I get in any more trouble, Cherlynn, Chief Contrarian Editor, would you like to go to bat for Dead or Alive real quick?
So 20 seconds is not enough time to.
I won't even give you the buzzer. We'll skip the 20 seconds for this one.
I'm not supporting.
Okay?
I'm not supporting the game or what, as in this the thing that is doing here. I'm not supporting rape. I am against physical or sexual assault, but this VR experience, the point of it is not to fondle the woman. It's not the whole point of the VR experience. There are other things you can do. So it really is up to you, the player, to do this. I mean, sure, this shouldn't be in there, but I was talking to Sean Buckley, who wrote the article, and he mentioned that after all of the flack he caught online, someone pointed out to him, one of his friends pointed out to him that the result of that prodding is different depending on the number of points you've already scored with the girl. It's kind of weird.
So you can earn the sexual
You could
assault.
earn the right to touch this girl, which, let's be real,
That's worse, Cherlynn.
it's bad. It's still bad, but it's kind of like real life.
No.
Kind of, you think? Terrence has lost it.
We've
Terrence is completely.
we have to shut down the show right
His
now.
face is so red. I think
Oh
he has
my
a cornea.
God. I can't.
I'm not even saying that
Okay.
I'm for this. I'm just saying that there are other mechanics to this game
Right,
to
right.
prevent this from happening.
What?
But no,
Wait.
Yeah.
but that
Mechanics to prevent it. I mean, it's not preventing it.
it's to,
mechanics.
I guess, to justify, which isn't very which really isn't cool. Like, and to be fair, well, not fair. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to be fair because it's my job to consider the other.
We gave you
point
an
of
out.
view.
We gave Cherlynn an out to be like, you don't have to defend this. So
And I said I still would because I want to present the side of the trolls.
Well, you raised the point earlier too about violence and how we
I
accept
did, when
violence
you and
in
I were talking
games
about it, yeah.
versus nudity and sexual stuff. So I think that's a good point.
Right.
But
I was
yeah.
saying to Devindra when we were discussing this late in the night, unfortunately, that that there is also a double standard. Like, I don't get our uproar over this on our side, on our parts, when we don't care about people killing like people in very grotesque ways in games. One of the comments that Sean Buckley received was that I bet you're going to say GTA is a murder simulator, which, you know what, we didn't say that. It's weird. We don't give GTA that much flack for letting you kill
We do
women.
raise criticisms, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I my issue here is more about the double standard, and it's more about the fact that that our reaction has an equal and opposite
I see that.
reaction.
I get that. But yeah, so I've been following the Dead or Alive series for a while. I used to really like fighting games. And then this series came out, and the earlier games were pretty good. And then they got into this weird place where it just got really perverse. Yeah, they started talking about boob physics. They started talking about all this weird stuff. And then the spin-off series happened, which were basically excuses to watch the female characters in the show, in the game, and just watch them play volleyball and just ogle them. So the move to VR, I think, is a very natural step for this franchise. But this idea that you can literally just fondle them and just basically, assault them, even while the characters are saying no, to me that crosses the line, because virtual reality it's not just playing a game, it is like you experiencing this thing, and there's less separation between the player and the game and things like that. I agree, violence in gaming is a problem, but even in games where you're killing people, it's not like you're physically enjoying the act of killing somebody. And when a game is basically a murder simulator, there was that game from a year or two ago where it was basically like it was just like really perverse and really politically incorrect. And it was like touting itself as a murder simulator. Everybody gave that game
yeah, I
crap.
remember that.
Hatred.
Was that it?
I think it was called Hatred. But it was basically like a guy trying to make a really dumb point that, look at all this,
And we did, to be fair, take that to task. I think we did call it a murder simulator.
But that's a different level than like
So,
GTA,
I mean, I think you do bring up an interesting point about the double standard, and I think that is a whole rabbit hole we could go down. That's a general American culture thing. We are much more accepting of violence than we are sexuality. For whatever reason that is, probably has something to do with the fact that we were founded by a bunch of fundamentalist Christians.
Yay, Puritans.
Yay.
I'm not gonna.
No, it's fine. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But I mean, I think not too far at least. But I do think there is an important distinction between something like GTA and Hatred or the Dead or Alive thing, which is GTA is put in the context of a narrative. Whether or not you want to argue that it's glorifying violence through that narrative, there is still a story there. It is an attempt to convey something, whereas the Dead or Alive experience is just kind of mindless. Even if there's other mechanics and other things going on there, it's not trying to tell you a story, communicate morals, or provide entertainment beyond what you would get at like a strip club, basically.
So exactly. So two things I want to say, right? So you're saying that this Dead or Alive groping experience, let's name it for what
That
it
should be
is,
the
right?
title. Yeah.
If
They should
that
change it.
was
I think it's
put-
currently called the Paradise Experience or something, which is also incredibly appropriate, I suppose.
Dead or Alive, happy endings. I don't know.
I like that. Dead or Alive, happy. But okay, so you're saying that if this groping experience were put in the context of a storyline that kind of, let you live vicariously, and it was clear about that, you're saying this is okay,
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it would be
more acceptable.
It would be a different debate.
Yeah.
There's trouble with representing any act of violence, whether it be sexual or not, in media in that way. And I mean, the creators of Game of Thrones got a lot of flack for the rape scene of Sansa, and to an extent, understandably so, but that also did serve a narrative purpose and a piece of art. And I think their arguments for why they did it are, valuable ones, even if at the end of the day I disagree that it should have been in there.
Yeah.
So I see your point. I'm sorry, just to jump in.
go.
I was trying to say this while you were talking just now. What is the distinction? So you took issue, Devindra, with the fact that this is a VR experience. It puts you in.
Well, it is another level. Yeah.
Right. But what about VR porn?
Yeah.
What about VR porn that's eventually going to morph and let you choose your own story?
VR porn is a thing. It's happening. Porn is a whole separate. I think it is sort of a separate argument. I wouldn't want to relate games to porn because some porn experiences are basically games, and games are getting to that point. But that is a whole separate thing, though. That is something made for adults, and usually involves like willing women, it involves participants being willing, unless it's some weird rape fantasy. But even then, the construct of the fantasy is known. It's not a snuff film, right? We separate snuff movies from
Actual
the
killing.
fantasy of all this weird sexual stuff. So I think that's a big difference. And the thing about VR is, having tested so much of this stuff out, VR isn't just like playing a game. It is replacing your reality, and it is you physically experiencing things. So I take issue with us getting to this point. And even in the gaming world, like when violence reached a certain point, there was backlash. When Call of Duty had that level in the airport where you were basically mowing down innocent civilians, there was a lot of backlash against that and about what that meant. So yeah, our view of violence and sexuality in games isn't great, but I'd rather we, if we want to be mature, let's approach actual, sexuality and like real adult relationships and not guys having an excuse to grip women.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a lot to be said about sensitivity in this country, and there's a lot to be said about the mechanics of the game behind this. They could improve it for sure. But what I want to say is, regardless of how you rule on this, Terrence, Mr. O'Brien,
Yep.
that I'm glad though that we managed to talk about this with both sides being able to see.
Check
all the
my YouTube
arguments.
channel later.
because I can guarantee you we're gonna get so much hate for this, and people who just won't open their eyes to either side of the
I think I'm especially annoyed because of gamer culture right now, and kind of how.
But that's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing. But I hate how everything is turned.
Yeah, we do have to move on.
Yep.
But I do want to leave this real quick on one particular element of this that we didn't really get a chance to get to, and that was part of the backlash that we got about this story. And I think this speaks to your point about VR being a different level to an extent. And that was people basically arguing that we're up in arms about a thing that isn't real. At the end of the day, it's a virtual experience, and therefore it should be acceptable because we are not harming a real woman. And that's the dumbest argument.
Yes.
I just want to say that. So if you're out there listening, watching, whatever, and that's the argument you were making, that was the issue you took with the headline and the story, is that it's not real. A, it was in the headline where we called it a game, and B, that's dumb. You're encouraging it through a mechanic in a game, and just because it's not actually real doesn't make it acceptable. Go, I don't even. I'm dropping an F-bomb because I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm awarding nobody a point for this. We all lose because of this game, okay?
And we're doing no points. Yeah. And we're all dumber for having had this argument.
Yes. No, we're actually smarter for having had this argument.
I think we're smarter, actually.
I'm trying to go, was it Billy Madison?
All right.